that the government is actually in danger of collapse?
Well, yes. Although, Netanyahu is one of the most skillful politicians really in the world, I would say. To remind people, he first came to power as long ago as 1997, 98. He held power as prime minister, then he was out of office. He's won about 5 elections over the years, so we can never rule him out. However, it's incredible because 3 months ago, after he won the election in November, Israel was in a very, very strong position. Its economy was stronger than ever. It's now on its GDP's up there with the top European countries like Germany. He's made 4 peace deals with United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Bahrain, Sudan. There was talk of a deal with Saudi Arabia being negotiated behind the scenes. Israel even came in 4th happiest country in the world in the UN happiness index for the last 3 years. And today we've seen the biggest demonstrations ever overnight. The Ben Gurion airport, without any notice at all, its only airport, only international airport, has closed temporarily. Flights are disrupted. The streets, the main arteries are blocked. And it's really incredible that Netanyahu, who is such a skillful politician, he managed to balance Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. He kept Israel out of the Syria war when Turkey and Russia and many other countries were sucked in. He is, the longest serving prime minister, and yet he really seems to have lost control. So yes, he may lose office, but I think we should not rule him out yet. And in spite of these big street protests against him, he still has a very strong base of support in Israel too, not among the protesters, but he has built up over the years a very strong support base. So very hard to predict what's going to happen.
Did the people who voted for the Likud party know what was coming? Did Benjamin Netanyahu campaign on these judicial reforms, or is he being held hostage, or indeed making concessions to his far-right partners?
Well, although it's a bit of a paradox, all the things you just said are correct. They did campaign on judicial reform, but very few people understand exactly what was involved. You have to be a constitutional law expert to understand. So many people, even today, even among the opposition, support some kind of judicial reform because there is a feeling in Israel that the Supreme Court has taken upon itself too much power over the last 20 or 30 years. Again, and it's not elected. It's not directly elected by the people. So there's a strong feeling that there should be some judicial reform, but the reform that's going ahead has elements in it which are quite radical, and people worry that they will weaken Israeli democracy by taking away checks and balances. So they did campaign for judicial reform, but I'm not sure people paid so much attention to the detail. And you're also right in that there are more ideological people, both our far-right party, but also within the Likud, including Netanyahu's own justice minister, who want to push through a more radical version of judicial reform. If it was a softer version of judicial reform, I don't think we would be seeing these protests. It's a radical version. I might, if just add one more thing. I think the ferocity of the protests are not really about reform at all. It's a build-up over decades of frustration among the kind of secular, hard-working part of the population, as they would see it, that a lot of the religious people are busy studying in Jewish religious seminaries and therefore not contributing to the economy, or they don't serve in the army. And it's a build-up of frustration that they're not doing their fair share towards the country, and also a build-up of frustration that the opposition parties have not united and not been sufficiently adept at winning elections and keeping power, which is why Netanyahu keeps on winning elections, essentially. So I think a lot of issues have sort of come together. It's not just really about judicial reform.
If he pushes ahead with this legislation through Parliament, do you think there's a serious risk that actually he won't win the vote because of dissenting voices in his own Likud party? He probably only needs, Tom, 4 members of his coalition to vote against him?
That's correct, because the coalition has 64 members in the 120-seat Knesset, the parliament. So that's correct. If 4 members of the Likud do not vote with him, it won't pass. And I would guess that there will indeed be 4 who will not vote with him. But also, I'm not sure that Netanyahu wants to push through this legislation because the economy can virtually collapse if some of the, brightest and best are on strike. We're not talking about a strike to date among kind of manual factory workers. We're talking about very successful high tech and other type of, financial companies. And, the shekel, the Israeli currency, has fallen dramatically in recent weeks. And also, if Army and Air Force reservists are going to not turn up for training, that imperils the country's security. We have the Iranian nuclear threat. From an Israeli point of view, is growing and lurking in the background. And we have, Hezbollah, the Lebanese group, having an arms build-up, not just in Lebanon, but their groups also on the Syrian border with Israel. So quite apart from pushing through judicial reform, I'm not sure Netanyahu or any government can govern without the support of the heart of those who make the economy successful and the heart of those who defend the country.
Really interesting to hear your analysis, Tom. Thank you so much indeed. Tom Gross speaking to us from Tel Aviv.
Thank you.